So any guy who's ever lost an erection knows that the more you try to focus on staying hard, the faster you're gonna lose your erection. So you need to stop doing that. So what we need to do instead is ask ourselves, is there anything that's a good predictor about whether or not we're going to stay hard? And it turns out that there actually is something that's an incredibly accurate predictor of whether we're gonna stay hard. And that's actually our emotional state, okay? So as men in the Western world, we are not taught about our emotions, but if you look back at the sexual experiences in your life that have gone really well, think about the emotional state that you were in 10 to 15 minutes before they happened. And then think back to the times where you've lost an erection and think about the emotional state 10 to 15 minutes before you lost your erection. So when you walk into the bedroom and you feel anxious, you feel afraid that you're going to lose an erection, unsure, hesitant, all of those kinds of things, there's a very, very high likelihood that you're going to lose your erection no matter what you do in the moment. And so what we have to focus on is making our emotional state better before we have sex. And so if I'm like, hey, just make your emotional state better, there's a chance that you're going to be able to do it, but most guys have no idea how to do it directly. And that's because there's something that we can use to change our emotional state quite a bit. And that is our mind, okay? So our mind has a huge impact over our emotional state. And so right now, if you think about the last time you lost an erection, boom, your emotional state is going to be crap. And if you now think about the last time that something amazing happened to you, the best moment of your entire life, and you picture that, your emotional state is going to be significantly better than it was when you were thinking about losing an erection. So the focus of our mind and the contents of our mind have a humongous impact on basically how we feel, and how we feel is basically the best predictor of how we stay hard. And so if we look at what this really means, what we're basically talking about here is that we need to learn how to make our inner world basically pleasant. Right now, no one taught you how your emotions work, how to deal with uncomfortable emotions, and chances are you don't know much about your mind or the relationship between what you focus on and how you feel. And so because of that, your inner world has basically been chosen accidentally. And what our minds tend to do is they focus on trying to protect us. And anytime our mind is focusing on protecting us, what it tends to do is it tends to put us in an uncomfortable emotional state. And so we just create all these patterns and we end up with all this stuff inside that doesn't feel good. And so women naturally have a better understanding of how to deal with their emotions than men. But what we want to look at here is I'm going to tell you how to deal with the emotional state. And then I'm also going to tell you how to improve the quality of your mind. So, okay, so let's start with emotions. So when we say emotions, what I'm really talking about, for the most part right now, the emotion that most guys are experiencing is just fear, okay? Fear is basically like you're afraid of losing your erection, you're afraid of the consequences of losing your erection, you're afraid of embarrassment, all that kind of stuff. But if we break it down to the most consistent fear and what a lot of the fears sort of root down to, it really comes down to a fear of abandonment, okay? And if you're like, hey, I don't have that, let's look at it, because there's a lot of like subtle variations that really are a fear of abandonment. If you're experiencing something like a fear of being left, a fear that she'll cheat on you, a fear that she'll be disappointed, a fear that you'll be alone forever, or just straight up that she's going to leave you, those are all different forms of fear of abandonment. And so if you have this fear, there's really two flavors of it that we have to look at. One of them is reality, okay? So if you're in a relationship and a girl is like, if you don't fix your erection problems, I'm going to leave you, that fear is based on what's actually happening. And if that's the case, what you actually need to do is you need to stop having sex. So if you're in a situation where if you don't get hard, the relationship's over, basically what's happening is that your body is preventing you from getting hard because it's trying to protect you. It understands that the situation that you're in is about to emotionally harm you quite a lot, and so it's beginning to shut down and protect itself. And you're never going to be able to force yourself to get hard while you're in that state. And so what you actually need to do is you need to stop trying to have sex and you need to work on trying to get the relationship healthy. I actually made a video, which I'll link up here, which you can watch for yourself, but then you should show to your partner to help her understand that this is a problem that's very fixable, but it's based on pressure. And so when you're adding pressure to yourself or she's externally adding pressure to you, it's actually making the situation worse. And if she takes the pressure off and helps you take the pressure off, the erections tend to come back. So, okay, so this is actually a very small portion of men. What most guys are dealing with is actually it's literally just fear. So it's not that they're in a situation where the woman is telling them, like, if you lose your erection, I'm going to leave you. It usually comes down to more guys are worried that that's how she's feeling inside. And oftentimes when I ask guys about this, what's the status of your relationship, they'll say something like, well, she's really nice about it, but I'm afraid she's just not telling me the truth. She's trying to spare my feelings. And so in this situation, it's oftentimes has no, like, what you're afraid of has nothing to do with reality. And so if this is the case that you're in, what you need to do is you basically just need to tell her, like, hey, I am feeling, I put a lot of pressure on myself that if I don't get hard, if I don't fix this problem, you're going to leave me. And then just say, is that how you're feeling? And what most of the time is going to happen and what the ideal situation is that the woman will just list off a million reasons why she's not going to do that. And it usually has to do with all the qualities and all the things about you that she loves. And what guys need to do is they need to hear that. You need to hear all the amazing things about yourself that you completely discount because you're so obsessed with sex. And so what this fear really comes down to a lot of times is that guys, they don't understand how women value sex differently than men. So as a man, if we want to walk into a bar and try and pick up a girl, chances are it's going to take a lot of effort, and we're only going to maybe if we're really good looking, we're really good at talking to women, there's maybe like one or two that might be a possibility. If your girl walked into a bar, even if she's not that good looking, chances are most of the guys in the bar would go home and have sex with her. So for men, sex is a scarce resource. We don't get it offered all the time. But for women, they get it offered, they order a coffee and the barista's hitting on them. So for women, sex is not a scarce resource, and so they value it significantly less than we do. And so basically what we have to recognize is that the things that women tend to value in relationships is all of our characteristics. Are we, a good guy? Do we make them feel safe? Do we make them laugh? Do we take care of them? Do we make good decisions? Are we responsible? Are we going to be a good father? Those kinds of things tend to be what women value as much as we think they value sex. And so what tends to happen is when you open up about this fear, most of the time what's going to happen is that your girl is going to list all those things that are amazing to you, or that she loves about you that you don't recognize or give yourself credit for, which should take a lot of the pressure off, but it should also salve some of that pain that you've been feeling inside. And so the other possibility is you'll tell her that and she'll be like, yeah, I am about to leave you. And if that's the case, you just do what I talked about there. But it's really most guys, the situation that they're dealing with is that the fear isn't real, but they just don't realize it. And so by keeping it inside, it's just festering. And we do this as men because we think it makes us feel weak. We think it makes us weak in order to open up about this. But in actuality, it takes a lot of balls to tell a girl that you are in love with that you're afraid she's going to leave you. Most guys will avoid that conversation like the plague, and that one conversation can take so much pressure off and make you feel so much better that a lot of guys, their ED just goes away. So, okay, so this is how to deal with the emotions. Now we're going to talk about how to deal with the mind. Okay, so the key to understanding the mind is that 99% of it happens outside the bedroom, okay? If you look at all the time that you spend thinking about this and obsessing over, is she gonna leave me? Am I gonna stay hard? And going down rabbit holes on the internet, almost all of it is not happening directly after you lose an erection. It's happening while you're at work or while you're with your friends or while you're playing video games or on your commute or whatever. And so the basic thing to recognize here is that your mind can magnify a problem and take something that isn't even real and turn it into a serious problem in your life. So if you're one of the guys, and most of you are, who are in the situation where your relationship isn't on the line, or if you're a single guy, if you're worried about a girl that you haven't even met yet is going to leave you over this problem, it's the same thing. It's not based on your experience. It's based on what you're afraid will happen. And it can be hard because even if that's happened in the past, it doesn't mean it'll happen in the future. But basically, if you're one of those guys, what's happening is that you're afraid of something and then your mind is just magnifying it. So if you're in a relationship and the woman is not on the verge of leaving you, and if you opened up to her about it, she would actually be really nurturing and caring. What that means is all of the pain that you're putting yourself through is completely unnecessary. And this is so hard because we trust our minds so much. We trust our fears. But this is, when I talk about this being a problem of your inner world, what you have to really come to the conclusion of is that you have to mature. You can be afraid of something that's not real. You can feel something that's not real. You can think something that's not real. And one of the modern diseases right now is mistaking an emotion for the truth. If you say something to me and I get upset, I am vindicated for anything I do to you because you were wrong. Well, emotions can be, the thing is that they're true from the sense that you're feeling it. And you don't want to deny that you're feeling it by trying to push an emotion away and bury it. It will own you. It'll control your behavior. But it doesn't necessarily reflect objective reality. You can misunderstand what somebody says. You can misunderstand the situation. And what's oftentimes happening in a relationship when you're struggling with this kind of problem is that you're misunderstanding how she will react if it's not resolved and how she would feel if you told her. And so the basic thing you have to do is just get your mind off of this. Go hang out with your friends. Go try to enjoy your life. Try to focus on having fun. Try to focus on feeling better. And so you're just learning how do you make your inner world feel better? It starts with the behavior of your mind, and it starts with learning how to deal with your emotions. And so I often tell guys, this is not a sexual problem. This is a life problem that just showed up in the bedroom and you ignored it until life took away something that was so painful that you couldn't avoid it anymore. And so learning how your inner world works, for me, I found this through my spiritual life. I don't push spiritual stuff on anyone, but the guys who tend to get this the fastest, who tend to heal the fastest, are guys who are at least a little bit open to that kind of stuff. Because if you look at the tools that are effective for dealing with this kind of stuff, I've tried everything. I've tried meditation. I've done a lot of meditation. I've done hypnosis. I've done therapy. I've done sex therapy. I've done I've done internal family systems. Like, I've done so many different things. And at the end of the day, just seeing the relationship between my mind focuses on this and it makes me feel this way, and then checking, is that real with reality, is the only way to really deal with this. So if you would like some help with this process, if you're in a relationship and you haven't watched porn in the last 30 days, there's a link down below on how you can book a call with me. If you have watched porn or you're not in a relationship, there's also a link down below. You can get help from me in my Skool group, but I don't work with guys one-on-one who are not in those situations. So I'll close out with, this is a really fixable problem. Just don't give up. It does take a little work, but you are very capable of learning how these things work. And when you learn how they work, it's not about just fixing your erections. It makes your whole life better because you feel better on a day-to-day basis, but it also strengthens your relationships and opens up whole new dimensions of life that you didn't really know were there. So it's an amazing process. I really strongly suggest that you stick with it. And if you do, you will be very happy because it'll change your life. Well, I'll see you next time.